One thing I love about the fact that I've been doing fantasy monster and dragon episodes on this channel for so long is the fact that I can so easily use those to help fuel my fantasy armor series, set in the same universe. For instance, when I wanted to make an armor out of Roxanne Wolf from FNAF, I had my armor crafting character, Vasilia Kuznet, make it out of parts from the hide of my Roxanne Wolf dragon from my FNAF Dragons episodes. And we're going to be doing a bit more of that today as I spin off my Minecraft Fantasy Monsters series into Minecraft Fantasy Armors. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. I hope you have spare room in your shop, Vasilia, because I have plenty more hides for you from the Mining Colony Isles. Every time I go there, I just discover more and more incredible creatures. And kills him, apparently. Well, I have slain one or two of the more hostile creatures, yes, but many of the hides I've found were from creatures that had already— I am teasing you, Theron. Would be hypocritical of me to judge anyone for slaying creatures to craft armor from their hides. And if there is one thing Vasilia Kuznet is not, it is hypocrite. I will put the new hides you bring in the basement, much appreciated. But this is actually perfect timing. I have just completed your armor from the ashes of, what you call this creature again? You know, the tall black man with purple pixie dust floating around it. You brought me from your previous visit to Mining Isles. The lank-limbed ender? You finished the armor? Did the enchantments you were trying work? By that do you mean was I able to give Suit the same teleportation ability as the creature? Yes, I completely understand if you weren't able to. I know it was a long— Oh please, Terran, how you greatly underestimate my crafting abilities. I was of course able to make the suit capable of teleporting the wearer. That's incredible. How far can it go? Are there any drawbacks or dangers to the ability? One unfortunate complication, yes. In bringing out the magical energy of the creature to enable the teleportation, I also unfortunately brought forth its aversion to water. When the armor is wet, it will sometimes teleport the wearer at random to a dry place nearby. I believe with enough focus and mental fortitude you could withhold from being transported in this way, but may take some practice. The farthest I was able to teleport on purpose was roughly 100 feet, but was instantaneous, as you were so hoping. That is perfect. I can deal with the water issues. Based on how many dangerous creatures I've been coming in close contact with lately, I really just needed anything that could get me out of attack range in an instant. Thank you, Vasilia. Is no trouble. With all the hides you have brought me over the last year, I will happily build any armor or weapons you require. Besides, it was actually quite easy working with the ashes you brought me. It is indeed strange that these creatures turn to ash upon their death, but mixing that ash into the metal of the armor was no trouble. In fact, as I did so, the purple floating specks began to emerge from the metal, made for very pleasant ambience during the work. By the way, the armor continues to emit these specks, so may not be ideal for stealth-focused quests, despite being very dark metal. That's alright. If anything, I'm sure it just further improves the aesthetic of the armor, which I trust is quite elegant as it is. You would indeed be correct about this, Terran. Come, take a look at the completed result. You've outdone yourself once again, Vasilia. I'm sure those I've met on the Isles will be intrigued by the digging claws you gave the armor. They might want to replicate it to aid them in their mining. You know, speaking of these mining isles, Theron, I actually brought them up at a Kuznet family gathering recently and found out that one of my ancestors used to live on these isles, and, of course, craft armors there. Really? That is, well, incredible in some ways, but admittedly doesn't surprise me to any great degree considering it seems as though you have ancestors from every magical place that I wouldn't have believed real until a few years ago. Indeed, that is a fair point to make. But yes, my ancestor, Alexandra Kuznet, spent decades on these isles, and we still have some of the armors she crafted there, but didn't sell before her death. Interestingly enough, on my last visit, I was able to witness a creature that was long thought to be extinct. Do you by chance know if your ancestor ever crafted an armor from a creature called a sniffing terraria pin?
Wait, there is a live terraria pin on the Isles? You saw it? No? This is very good to know, and may assuage some guilt my family has held in regards to ancestors' actions. You see, Alexandra Kuznet may or may not have contributed to the extinction of this creature.
Oh. Wow, why did she do that?
Well, her most popular armor was made from the hide and shell of these creatures. She even made herself an armor of this kind. So many people wanted the armor that she just kept on hunting them until she noticed that there were very few left. She stopped before killing them all, but their numbers continued to dwindle after that point.
Well, that is unfortunate to hear, but there is indeed one alive on the Isles now, and there are people assisting in bringing its kind back to abundance.
This is very good to hear. I would very much like to see one of these creatures in the wild someday. They sound fascinating. Very pleasant and cute in wrinkly old person kind of way, yes?
I suppose that's a valid description.
Plus, it's rare to see creatures like this with 6 legs. I would like to see how it manages to walk.
6 legs? The one I saw didn't have 6 legs.
What? Did not? From what family said, these creatures were well known for having 6 legs. I believe they were the only creatures on the Isles to be so.
Well, the one I saw definitely didn't, or I think, perhaps I just wasn't being very observant. No, it definitely only had 4 legs.
Well, perhaps you found the mutilated or deformed one, because Sniffing Terraria Pin definitely had 6 legs in days when Alexandra lived on the Isles.
Fascinating. I'll have to see what the other ones look like if the species does reemerge. So, how many armors did you get to see that your ancestor had crafted on the Isles?
We had 6 in storage remaining, and most were quite intriguing. One was specifically made to replicate the abilities and appearance of a golem found on the Isles.
They weren't by chance the household tote golems, were they? I got to see those for the first time on my recent visit, though they're no longer commonly found on the Isles.
No, that name does not sound familiar. These, I believe, were called the Glacian Jack Golem. Have you come across these in your times there?
No, but I do believe Stephen the Bold mentioned them on one of my visits. The people will craft them in winter, generally for aesthetic purposes only, or to act as a type of scarecrow to ward off some of the less intelligent hostile creatures. From what I recall, they aren't particularly combat capable. All they generally do is throw snowballs to irritate more so than harm.
Is what I was told as well. The Glacian Jack Golem was a traditional winter creation, most so used to celebrate the transition from fall to winter. Had body made of snow and head made of jack-o'-lantern, as some cultures carve these during fall to symbolize the conclusion of the harvesting season. The golems themselves may not have been particularly useful, but the armors my ancestor made representing them were quite formidable, though not mainly used for true combat.
What do you mean by true combat?
Well, these armors were first requested by women who wanted a gauntlet that could produce perfect snowballs for the annual snowball battle the islands once held. Alexandra did as requested and used similar enchantments to the ones used to craft the Glacian Jack Golem. With how pleased woman was with Gauntlet, she then commissioned whole suit to be worn during these snow battles.
She wanted to wear a full suit of armor for a snowball fight?
A strange request, I admit, but some certain unpleasant people have been known to throw snowballs filled with ice that can be very painful if struck. I mean, I certainly would not wear such an armor simply to avoid being struck by hard snow, but I would not judge someone else for doing so.
That is fair, I suppose. So did Alexandra make the armor so that it could be used in true battle if need be, or was it purely for play?
Yes, of course, was still fully functional for true combat. In fact, she eventually was commissioned to make weapon for the suit as well. Though at this point the woman wearing the suit was not willing to pay much more for upgrades and additions, so Alexandra made her weapon that was essentially long stick with simple bladed end. Eventually more people commissioned such an armor and they became common garb to wear during the annual snow battles. My family actually permitted me to take the remaining one we had, as I was quite fond of it. Here, take a look at this.
Well, that does look like a very well-made armor. I'd certainly wear it into battle if need be, though I am partial to the Ender armor you've just made for me. Were there reasons it and the other armors your family have left from her didn't sell, or were they simply remaining stock?
Most were just left over, but one was actually a failed experiment on my ancestor's part. She called it the Copper Golem Armor.
Interesting. I don't think I've heard of Copper Golems. Were they another species on the island around the time Alexandra lived there?
Not so far as I'm aware. I think was simply suit she made for her younger sister, then had intended to make more of it, but soon realized it had significant flaws. You see, it was made almost entirely from copper, which initially gave it pleasant orange-golden appearance, but over time as it oxidized, the material became very worn looking, with greenish-blue patches that did not match the intended aesthetic.
Understandable. I also imagine it would have become quite stiff as the copper warped.
Indeed, you are correct. The more it oxidized, the more the suit became sluggish and tiresome to move in. Eventually, it essentially became a statue that the wearer could hardly even put on in the first place.
So I imagine she only made one version of it then?
Actually, she did try a few iterations, but never achieved the result she was actually hoping for. I believed one of the suits can actually still be found in the old mines, standing still as a statue completely oxidized over. Would actually not be surprised if someone found it and assumed it had once been an actual golem, given its appearance.
I could certainly imagine that occurring, and perhaps I'll even find it myself someday. I do intend to return to the Isles again at some point. I still have many questions about the Nether Realm the locals can access, where lie more creatures and unusual beasts.
You know, admittedly that and other things you have mentioned before, along with the tales of my own ancestor now, have all intrigued me. Perhaps I shall have to visit the Isles myself sometime soon.
Well, you're more than welcome to join me next time I go if you'd like. There are many skilled crafters on the Isles, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen the Bold or any other warriors there requested an armor from you. So long as we don't kill any endangered creatures to make them, that is.
This is a good point you make. And yes, I think I shall take you up on that offer sometime, Taron. Thank you.
I really love doing the Fantasy Armor series. Not just because I love voicing Vasilia Kuznet, but I really like doing the designs for these episodes. And I love suggestions for more. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you want more stuff like this, you might like my famous video game characters as Fantasy Armors episode. Or of course, any of my Minecraft related episodes, like Minecraft Mobs as Fantasy Monsters. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is an old proverb that says, when you find peace within yourself, you become the kind of person who can live at peace with others. When you're happy with who you are, it's much easier to respond peacefully and kindly to others, regardless of whether they're in a great mood or a terrible mood. Because you'll never be able to fully control how other people are feeling, but you can control how you feel about yourself. I hope that's inspiring to someone out there. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the Community Redraw Folklore Halloween episode on Monday. Goodbye.